So, oh my lovely soul, oh my soul.
For the appearance parade, you know what it's like. The mind just strays, actions just hiding for reservations reserved, unrequited words, unrequited love in a way. Thanks to my nerves, thanks to my nerves, thanks to my
So, oh my lovely soul, oh my lovely soul. You always make me happy enough to sing that oh lovely soul song. Bear the pain for the months and more to hurt me, and I was not the bearer. The bearer in the forward was so lovely enough for the pen and ink to find the knife and the paper so plainly and so. Sat there for the nothing else to write for them. My idea was something like that. Contradict for the actions that could speak themselves, and maybe the owner that created the vein for the never to contest it again. That heart was beating too hold the heart, the internet ever pain that the bliss was enough for the sound, it was only the actions. Ripping off it like a band-aid, but whether you pull each other, individually screwed, stuck to you for the scan, for the pulling it, you can find it, rip it off at the once. Hold your breath, hold that, close your eyes, feel it, only the chaos of discord, for the realizing the purpose and the feeling, and only hard to pull the cord, for the need to learn that, for the forgiving, or maybe the Lord to put aside for that, for the past difference. Awkwardly. You can find the ignorance, and you can find it, you can never tell for what you want to see for the mass. It was only to relate that for the vacating of the burning room you can come into this world. Phoenix rising from the blame, they plead for the discard, for the abandon that, for the hope of the future, and the aspirations to flash that, for the diminishing the heart truths and permanently banishing of what you can find an excerpt. Expiring now defines that freedom. It was free to be dumb, not for the entitled for you. And I have a good friend for you, know the playing with your children, the only good way beyond the way for the baby. You can find it anyway. If you could be my baby for the good bear. Goodbye, farewell. Goodbye for the owner to heal that before for you. Leave me out in a hole for the only friend I can find a thought for the used to be only favorite favors. Fairy tales. Darkness and absence of life, and like this unknown the absence of life, and like that for the cold barrens of the heat. Trembling in turquoise and ties and tranquility with the transiting and treacherous and mess and the torrents and painting with the seasons and paint walls into my mind with every one of them. Moods and I don't smile and I don't want to cry and I don't want to live and I don't want to do anything anymore when I can try it. Someone, someday, compliment for one person today, for the favor, for the friend, for the someone to find that for the lunch. Maybe I could find a friendly enough for the classmate. It was the upper class. It was classified. It was classical. It was soothing and dancing with the swords, and you could stir that soul for fires inevitably even brighter, higher, higher, burning evermore. Into that tango, or mixing board for the pride in me. These mosquitoes are biting me because I don't want to be sliding enough for the calling themselves a murder for any reason to take them out for the pressures and tears they line and linger inside of my eyes and I can be captivated. You can keep those secrets sliding not while I'm sleeping. Because I don't want to have that pride for the laws to abide for. I'm lousy in my rhyme today, and I don't find how the hell for never. Maybe I was able to save that for the thought that you could find myself every day for the love to be the smoking, and maybe the only to be the conclusive, the swishing and self for everywhere for the dispersing. I'm bothered not but to be the superficial. Or superficiality for swimming higher, not for to be threatened by the throne, the crown, the shining shallow seas, and never terrifying the truth. It is to be the breezing like the truth, and never crawling, craving nothing, how to be horrified. I find that for the dark wolves and burn that for the soaking of the kerosene. Hope you are never too hot for me for the opening the poets of my soul. History for the hungry, hungry for the poetry, not to be any more for the poem, for this to be the only accepting. Excerpts are not to be read wrong. I love her, not just to love her, but to go and question anything for the fears and doubts and kissing her, but only the baby if I can find those eyelashes to look at me. But I know that I can make the whole for the loving of the piece of the soul, for the maybe I can find the grant the wish and then fill me my heart with desires. Anticipating for the maybe the stomach to the belly, aching for the moon to rise and illuminating the glow. My morning thoughts cruel for the distance and stretching beyond the reason. You can find that next though. Yet you are found right now. The angel and a beautiful angel you are to me. God's gift and what you can find for the divine, for the heavenly star. You can find every seat with no connection. I mean, the thoughts and the key or that for the ones in the pink. That picture for the looking through that glass like it was a mirror. Taking it for the relationship, you can never break it, we'll never know where it leads. And on the wind, the breeze, and find that breath to the trees, and the how that for the song, for maybe the missions. The friend for the golden eye, for the cruising of the face, and maybe the air, caress that cheek from the curling and flowing into the wind for the smile to be undeniable, like the joy of the facts, and this to be the deep throat. Commissions. Elect to fill in, and not to be repaired for the new to be the washboard, unheard of, and never to forget that for the playing around. Untitled with his love for the only the quiet intended, and only follow up, and this to be the culture for the words and collection of it. Tried to be bathed in that for the only to hurt. Or heather, but you can find it whether or not the sun, then one to find the weather, the sunlight to wash that for the speeding up, and maybe the heart humbles enough like a hummingbird. Passing to the glance and whispering the words in your lips and shame that for the crimson rose, and you can find that for the nowhere else goes across that river for your heart will swell. I am that. Can't you tell for the piece of you, for the darling I remember the day, for you can find a garden for the eating, the flower, the groove for the memory. I love to keep that for the mature enough for the woman you can be the light of my darkness and have a piece of me. 365 days I may be dead for the something more, be different but indifferent enough that you can find the garbage of the wars and I'm sure for the brevity of the emptiness and stains and clothing like my beggars and maybe you can grab me. Today I heard that lots of rejection for myself and moving ahead with the brightness
swelling in enough, succumb to the useless pursuit. I pursue you, and I'm no poet with an affection to human mankind. I can't write any more composing, it's just for me, for to criticize myself unworthy. I want to be the bigger man for to know the things that I said that hurt, for to have the purpose to cut the scars for maybe the years since you left. You I want to be thrown so far for to cut the scar for even farther. My mama told me to never talk to strangers, but easy defeat for the day, for the owner of the candy of promises. It would give you a sweet tooth or diabetes, and you would die of something. Like an African man. It was the fellow for the tree so tall enough with the brown trunk and green leaves, well and left as an autumn. Forgiveness, not for the strength, and yes, but weakness is a cycle. The world on the merry-go-round, but the sweet is the secret, the promise of the denial. It was a Nile, it was a river, it was flowing like that man with the land. Who can understand the pain? Be mine, absolutely nothing wrong with it. With being each other's rhyme and the reason as long as we can still carry on for the midnight, for the night, for the stress comes to test of the mind, for this maybe the line in the bed for the wide awake, and maybe the mind and the reason won't laugh for the need to take a break. Maybe having hope is naive, but life was better than falling. Not the answer to the ultimate question, for the answer to life, for the universe is not the failure. For love is the empty without the pain, for the pain with his only life, for the only gain, for the who hurts the most with the sum of the blame, for the roses and thorns might get the pain, for the small petals and groom without for the compliments. Complaints and stick walking. Harder to walk away anyway, despite that for the being rolled less travel. You can find that for the keeping the dangers within arm's length. Who wants to get divorced with the wound that would never understand, for the wound that would never surpass, and wound that can never seem to grasp. You can pay this freestyle for the homage and the pirate babe, pay by the bank for the new 2 rhymes, flames risen. Shackled by the past and never forfeits given the currency or change. Maybe you had a chance, and maybe you need to be gentle enough for the messing of the head, for the brain damage, and I hope you knew that. Nefertiti, your joint those Jews are walking across the dunes, searching for the oasis, and maybe the go-bangles and clinking of the feet for her pharaoh. Was an unoriginal for yelling over that, for the any circumstance, for the not to help you understand. Promised lands, where the promised hands of the politician, their mere words and spoken mirrors, and rubbed by the gun. For the enjoy that, for the poetry, it was never begun. You can ask that, for the you can thought so. Still harder to have the proof, for the wrote that, for the heart of my sleep, and know it was bulletproof, for the never to know it would still be the last in years, even who that even willing enough to give you up for the time to church right in the early mornings of the conversation, and I don't know what to do with my friend. I would find a recommendation in the end to pick you up, and it was the intentions of you crying and messed up and crying and not look so good for the face of the tell enough for the holding isn't it love. I don't wanna find that song stuck in my head with the majestic hills and filthy city streets, Mercury shoes on my feet, and I can stand for the clouds swelling the crowd. Succumb to the useless pursuit and I'm an affection for the human mankind. And right anymore for the composer and not for me to criticize and self-unworthy. Who's to be the bigger man for the thinking that you can find what's the truth and further and hurt you for the only the purpose to cut the scarf? It's been years since I saw you and been thrown so far for the yet you choose the scar even farther. My mother could have told me never to talk to strangers for it was my daughter. For your candy promises the tree so tall enough for the ground, for the trunk, for the green leaves, and unless it was autumn, then I find the forgiveness in my strength, and maybe the weakness in the cycle of the world, and not for the world of the realm, for the whisper, the secrets, the promise, the denial. Goodbye. I still was sorry for not to have the games anymore. Find those games, for the whip was a crack, the smile for the wave of the sunshine out of your head, for the exterior, and maybe the fork you up with the pain for the games, and here's the change, and like the diamonds, and what you can find the sides and winds to change the direction. Midnight trees and swaying enough for the moonlight from the shining against over the leaves with the gentle breeze. Who's breathing enough to find it easier to speak the mind, but only choking on their own tongue and stutter for the what you could find typing down for the, it was the typewriter for the last night you dreamt to you, for the last night I saw you, for the last night I was with you, the last night you were with me and I held you close. And you didn't know you were sleeping on me. Or I inside me for the flowers and perfume you could find for the after to be the button up. In my life, there's a place of sorrow for the burden, the pain, for the heartaches and disdain enough through your eyes. And I can see that for the events and created inside of me to maybe spend that life as a child. I find it true self for the only the cycle to look what you feel a certain way for the perfect and any way for the flaws that you were designed. Not that way at all for the mindset you were battling with the darkness. You don't have to know how I deal with that because most of the time I find judgment without the impression that people assume the worst out of me. But what you can have the hurt to breathe, the breath to breathe, and how you can think of me that's only assume the bad and only try to speak. Are you happy? One thing's for sure, I'm helplessly in love, but they can't find that helpless lives. And I have to be the one at the point for the giving enough. Are you happy? The question is, should you ask me? Shout out supremacy and humans and how that for display in the sense inside for maybe atrocious authorities and oppress that poor for the minority divided the people who want a common ground. I don't want to be the rave for the swarming across that for the best thing I ever heard all year. And maybe it was only the year for the bone and the pooping, and y'all can do it right now for the context of this. It was mysterious enough for that dark evil. Maybe it was outside in the world for who's to know that pain. It was the game without you could find every day for the permanent prints inside of that telling of a story of the past and longed after the betrayal, unpleasant memories and leave that with no emotions with the dead soul, the waiting that for the freedom and I can be from here since that person has scars anyway. But what does that have to do with the song anyway? There's absolutely nothing wrong with being each other's rhyme and reason. As long enough, there's enough to carry on. As long as we can carry what we reach to the end of the season and never find out for the fateful day arriving. I hope you remember with all the fondness and not to be the consumer with others' lies and give me super love and the wild madness. Who wants mad love anyway for the middle of the night stress to come to the testing of the mic for the laying on the bed for the wide awake and this my mind and memories and won't give enough for the small break. break me a piece of that love. Counting those cracks in the ceiling, what you can find so similar to all we've dreamt before. Dream thoughts will stop keeping me awake, but I need some rest and not start that time to the life, and if you can find a split, a spirit enough to surely conquer it. I hope so, for maybe having that hope was naive enough, for maybe my life was better then, and maybe it was then, but I had to be naive enough to find the bliss. Or feeling that for the what you can find an answer for the ultimate question, and for the answer that for the life in the universe. What did that mean? And love is empty without the pain anyway. But maybe the most of the time you can find that love that hurts most. And when someone comes to blame, then who's to find the roses and thorns may give that pain for the still petals of gloom without any complications. You find that before the complaint. I'm not for the strict or stick walking, and much harder for the way to walk now. For despite that, beneath the road, for the less travel, you can find that for the keeping the dangers with their arms length. I was hesitant to say that anyway, but you could find that for the shoulder to find anyway. For the either way, you could put it in the pedal for the metal, for the driving that grandkids in the right direction to locate the will. For maybe the motto was harder to fall for the stick to the wall beside her now. The stitches of a limit extending out only to maybe the inevitable. For the I'm not for the pessimist in me. I see colors with vividity for the primary, secondary for the spectrums too. Left working overtime and right, just can't find what's right anymore. For dances leaning, dividing and over the workload for the accordingly to according. Fair unfairly, of course, and that's the audience that won for the full gaze. Who was looking at that, and who wants to be divorced of the womb that can never understand that womb, but never wanted to surpass that for the seem to grasp? Like it was an ass. The womb that I could never overcome, that was the womb that was still gaping with one, and that would change the life for that would cut me like a knife for the owner to find vulnerable and the insecure that maybe endure that. Who would never let me change? Who would always change and make me wonder? Who's to keep me under for the womb that cried me to sleep? That was the womb that's still fresh in my mind, the womb that haunts me for the rest of my life. Freestyle homage by the bank too. Flames risen, shackled by the past, and no forfeits given in currency or change. Currently there's change. But who's the stranger in that main? Currently was that hair, man. You sound country to me, man. Never forgiving that, for maybe you had a chance, and my mom needs to be gentle and not messing with the head and brain damage, and I hope you do that. It wasn't new to me. It was only poetry. Something of elixir. Something you could find in a mixture, or find those to the tables and the tables turn. Something similar that you can learn from. It was Egypt, but it was Nefertiti, and adorned over the Jews walking across the dunes and searching for an oasis. The gold bangles and clinking at the feet, but maybe it was Pharaoh. Hands out for the reaching of the stars, and shot down for the drop dead for the moment of the birth when you run for your own life. Who would take a shot for the yelling over that? The phone or any circumstances that really you can find a helping of the view for the understanding. It was the promised land in the hands of that for them. Maybe the politician, the mere words that spoke to the mirrors and grubby of the gun. Enjoying that poetry you can find and come back with it if you will. It was a heartless warrior of steel and wrote those hearts in my sleeve. I thought it was bulletproof, but the little did I know it would be the last New Year's Eve. I'm willing to give you my untouched hurt. Early mornings in conversation you don't start, my friend. Monstrous of a taste, and when I saw you licking of the lips and laughing, reason is only because that. For the lies a little, for the picking up the head, for the thinking, all the intentions. Maybe they messed up for the crying a little, for the good face, and maybe too pale enough for the hurt, for the it was something. Please. Stuck inside of my head over majestic hills and filthy enough for city streets within, out without with the mercury shoes on my feet, and I still stand alone for the crowds. Clouds.
It was mysterious enough for that dark evil.
It was mysterious enough for that dark evil. It was mysterious enough. It was mysterious enough.
She'll be that circle in the moon and a circle of life, and maybe the day and night I find that I can remember the finger, first love, callous of thumb, tracing the grooves of my body, going over every right angle of the curve of my dream. It was more than a scene.
She'll be that circle in the moon and a circle of life, and maybe the day and night I find that I can remember the finger, first love, callous of thumb, tracing the grooves of my body, going over every right angle of the curve of my dream. It was more than it seemed. Dethroned by the off chance that I would get too close. Dethroned by the lingering scent of your brand. Your collar shirt of a woman, you can find a scent. A male or female, two strengths are strengthening each other. Omegas and alpha, young man live, young man. Find older man bolder. Not even up for none the wiser. I thought I would love her until I left and I couldn't move alone. Mediocrity, she screams, and mediocrity's the one for me. Sweet dreams and look for the eyes, close eyes into your high skies and your dreams. Stolen purity, I swore to give something to the person I would love for eternity until I stole it from me, mine. Beloved. She didn't want to talk to me, I don't want to not speak, not to reply to because I'm weak. Every time you publish a piece that you feel too unworthy to be posted, remember that for the who's needing not to release in the darkness and words underneath that truth. Who's the crimp in the sequence of the mineral, the deposit in the chords, and to find that apprehensive, the sweat and chalk. Who's the breath in the memory and the feelings, and then breathe out the lessons and teaching between this time I whisper your name in the shadows. Swallow the image under your sun. Sail under the seven seas in the bark and the missions in order to protect that country that you can suppress. I love burgers and like eating at restaurants and being swarms of people like I was in the midst of the trauma for the never coming around those who used to surround and tell me help you through it, and I did nothing but leave me there. I lay here, near the sea, kissed by the heat, completely forgetting about the nonsense. You maybe hello for the first word from that her. Friendship bore on and went for the daily, for the hello drew us close. Mere absence and time slows days past that for the joy in our arms. Open, not close. It's easy to toughen the heart, but it's real to take courage and open it. Maybe once you allow yourself for the world not to be as gray as it seems, and rainbows and unicorns won't shoot out. It was everything that I spoke about. She'll be that circle in the moon and a circle of life, and maybe the day and night I find that I can remember the finger.
to me like I'm just some typical black.
Don't talk to me like I'm just some typical black man. I'm not the one to type like I was in the writer or the typewriter to write something that I couldn't find a copyright. Who's that plagiarizer? Maybe it was something that he can write himself. Driving with no seatbelt, you can hear the alarm. Who's the Del Funky Homo sapien? Who was that human that was playing with the words? Like he had words to play with. Anything tangible enough. Who's to call that? It was a Sunday for the Black Sabbath, and you get a whip a pill with the have a happy face like Babyface, or call it a Sabbath like it was the Black Savage. And who wants to talk about blacks that way anyway? But anyway, you can say it. It'll be all right with me.
All that it is all that it was. Maybe it was that for the stars above. You can find that for the simile, get the poem. It was only that for the frenemy.
All that it is all that it was. Maybe it was that for the stars above. You can find that for the simile, get the poem. It was only that for the frenemy. All that it is all that it was. Maybe it was that for the stars above. You can find that for the simile, get the poem. It was only that for the frenemy. All that it is all that it was. Maybe it was that for the stars above. You can find that for the simile, get the poem. It was only that for the frenemy. All that it is.